age is a major factor. He's 80 years old, the oldest president we've ever had. If he were to finish the second term, he would be 86 years old. Let me put that in perspective. That is twice as old as our youngest president-elect.
Wait, Biden will be old. I mean, Biden is old already, but so is Trump. How much younger is Trump than Biden?
Because his approval rating is just
I mean, he definitely is like. I think he's his brain works better than Biden's, but like, isn't he only like, you know, a couple years?
Approval rating. But all the other presidents,
I don't think Trump is as senile as Biden. I'll be honest. I think Biden looks and acts worse than Trump.
Joe Biden has a lot to tell the American people tonight.
But in some ways, I'd say we're a 50-50 country now, entrenched in our polarized politics, and it's hard to get to the 55, 58, 60% that other presidents had. But I do want to ask you about this historical moment and Biden's decision, it seems, to run for re-election again at this age. And I just wonder, are you pessimistic or optimistic about the possibility of anyone, Biden or anyone else, Republican, Independent, bringing the country together?
I think it's very challenging to do that, Terry, for the reasons that you suggest. You can see it in Congress. You can see the mood in Congress. We are a very divided nation. I don't
Okay,
know.
what the fuck's going on, bro? The robots have taken over the...
Strengthen our democracy.
Oh, my king, my goat,
of the Trump administration.
my goat. That's Paul Pelosi, isn't it?
No one has faced.
Why is he next to Bono?
Like
What's happening?
Before. And Joe Biden has done everything I can.
What the fuck? Paul Pelosi's there next to Bono? What is happening, dude? Oh my God. Bono, watch out. Paul Pelosi has a hammer, dude. Why is Bono one of the fucking guests at the State of the Union? Is Bono even American? What the fuck is that? Why do the Democrats love Bono so much? Yeah. David DePipe is in prison, just so upset that Paul Pelosi's already moved on to a way sexier man.
And the fact that he's going to have many Republicans against him no matter what he proposes, because it's politically expedient to oppose the Democratic president. So I think he has to be, again, on the one hand, he has to sound a message of unity, hoping that it might resound, but no.
I don't know what's going on. We need a different feed here. No, PBS doesn't have commentary, though.
Now, in cabinet, there's Treasury Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And that aisle, the president's going to walk down that aisle in just a few moments. That's a gauntlet, isn't it? It's a great spot for members and senators to get there, to get their picture taken as they shake the president's hand. As Rick Klein said, that aisle may be lined by people who aren't as big a fan of his as they might be. Let's go back to White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks. She's up on the North Lawn where the president has departed the White House. We saw the president leaving the White House just a few minutes ago. Did he say anything on his way out?
He did. He was asked, what is the state of the union? And he said it's in great shape and getting better. And in some ways, that seems to be a bit of a thesis for the speech that we're prepared to hear tonight. We've heard that from the White House team. The president is planning to try to paint that optimistic tone about the economy, say that people should feel good about some of these economic numbers, low unemployment rates, but that he understands, too, that not everyone is feeling that. And he wants them to know that things are moving in the right direction, even if they haven't felt felt that progress yet. And Terry, while I have you, I am struck while these members of the president's cabinet are walking down that aisle, there is one that we now know is not there. We were just told that the designated survivor for tonight, it's a sort of an old tradition that goes back where one member of the cabinet secretary does not come, does not sit there. We were just told that is the Labor Secretary, Marty Walsh. We also reported today that he's actually going to be departing the administration. He will actually be the first cabinet secretary to leave this administration.
Oh, look at that. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. They're yucking it up. Oh, my God. They're yucking it up. Oh, you know, Kirsten.
The NHL, the Hockey Players Union, feels very Boston to me. He's a Boston native, but he is the designated survivor. So our little bit of news coming in just now, Terry.
There we go. Dates back to the Cold War when there was concern about continuity of government. And
Kiefer Sutherland is designated survivor.
It must stay away. That's Marty Walsh.
Yeah.
Back to Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill. Actually, I should say, we're going to now take you to David Muir and our network special on President Joe Biden's State of the Union. Here's
when
David.
a nuclear bomb wipes out the entirety of Congress during a State of the Union, Kiefer Sutherland is designated survivor. Wait, what the fuck is this?
With historic job growth
Is
and
this an
economic
ad?
recovery.
The strongest job growth in history. The lowest
Is this an ad
unemployment
before
rate
the
in
soda?
54
Is
years.
this a pre-soda
Manufacturing
ad? What the
rebounding at a
fuck?
faster rate. Inflation
Meanwhile, the only ads you get here are the top of the hour ads. Now, if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime. By connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, you get one free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully, this is me. That's right. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Use the 3-minute ad break now.
Of the next year.
We're the United States of America. And nothing is beyond our capacity.
Taco Dam,
Now
thank you for the 10
reporting
gifted
from
subs, allowing
Washington,
10 people
David
to no
Muir.
longer see the ads at the top of the
Good
hour.
evening tonight from the nation's capital. In just a few moments here, President Biden will deliver his second State of the Union address to the nation. Americans and the world watching as he prepares to enter the House chamber on Capitol Hill tonight. President Biden's address, of course, coming at a pivotal moment in his presidency. Now halfway through his first term and potentially eyeing a run for a second term in 2024, of course. The president has yet to declare whether he'll run again, and for the first time, he'll deliver this speech in the House chamber where Republicans are now in the majority, a slim majority after the midterm election. Democrats, of course, holding on to control of the Senate, gaining on their slim majority there. Still a very divided country, and this president knows that. But this is always an opportunity for any president to set the course, to try to build support, to reach out to Democrats, Republicans, independents watching at home tonight, and of course watching right there in the chamber. Also in the chamber tonight, our senior congressional correspondent, Rachel Scott. Rachel, what have you witnessed so far?
Well, David, I could tell you this is a dramatic change for President Biden because in just a few moments.
I love these moments of American politics because, like, they always, like, people always cover it or look at it as though it's like, is like the Super Bowl or whatever, but it's so lame because the people involved in it are lame and the subject matter that they cover is lame. So no matter what happens, it's like, it's never going to be as poppin', you know?
The new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Few words being exchanged right now between McCarthy and Vice President Kamala Harris. But McCarthy says tonight, not only will his party be watching, but the rest of the nation will be watching very closely, David.
Mustafa
Rachel,
John
thank you.
Telly, thank you for the
McFarland, of course, the newly
Telly,
appointed
thank you
House
for the
Sergeant
25
at Arms,
gifted
who
subs.
announced the president appointed just a couple of weeks ago.
Bzilla123, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Honestly, the last time that they made epic content was January 6th. That's why they say DC is Hollywood for ugly people. Yeah.
Union President Biden. The applause from the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden. Of course, she has guests there tonight, which we'll get into over the course of the evening here. And as is always tradition, the president walking down that center aisle, shaking hands with members from both parties. Members of his cabinet are already in the chamber, of course. So are several justices from the Supreme Court, and we took note that a couple of retired justices, which we haven't seen in recent times. The president, it's believed, will make the case tonight with Americans watching at home with optimism about what's coming. He'll certainly note the administration's accomplishments, bipartisan achievements, infrastructure, roads, bridges, making microchips in America, the Inflation Reduction Act, included in that, the cap on insulin. And Mary Bruce is expected to make this case knowing full well that many Americans say they're simply not feeling this yet.
David, I'm told the phrase we are going to hear over and over again tonight is finish the job. The president is going to argue that the economy is strong and that his policies are working. He's going to point to that shockingly strong jobs report, tout many of his accomplishments, including that bipartisan infrastructure bill, and argue that his policies are really improving the lives of Americans. But as you say, we know so many Americans really aren't feeling that. They don't agree with that. And he is going to speak to them directly and say, I get it. He understands their pain, and he's going to ask them essentially to trust him and argue the country is headed in the right direction.
To stay the course. Standing behind the president tonight, the Vice President Kamala Harris, where we usually see her, of course, during these State of the Unions. But beside her, someone new. Not new to the Capitol, of course, not new to the country, but new to this role, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. There they are, standing side by side for the first time. We have been watching them over the course of the evening. Obviously, different parties, but sort of the lip reading has already begun. Word they said to each other, this is a packed house tonight. We didn't see them discussing any in-depth policy, at least not yet. We'll stay on that. Both the president and Speaker McCarthy signaling respect for one another in recent days. They did just meet at the White House, signaling.
I mean, it's odd watching these old fucks like celebrate each other. You know what I mean? Things are not great. Why the fuck? What are you guys doing? You guys should never be like excited or happy. You know what I mean? You should not have a moment of happiness or a moment of like celebration. Like, fuck did you do? You didn't do shit. Also, where's Hunter is a good question. Yeah, where is Hunter? Where is Hunter? I want to know where Hunter is. Why isn't he here? They snubbed him.
40 years ago, came into this chamber with approval ratings even lower than Biden's are now, an economy covering from high inflation, high interest rates, somebody who people said was too old. That president was Ronald Reagan, 1983. He said, stay the course, almost an exact echo of finish the job, and he won re-election the next year by one of the biggest landslides in American history. Yeah. Now, that's what Biden would like to emulate.
Really interesting. Finish the job from President Biden tonight. As John points out, we were looking at the vintage political button from the Reagan years, stay the course.
Stay the course. That was the campaign slogan for Reagan going into 1984.
We're watching the president as he says hello to the justices who've gathered there. And John, you and I were noting that there were a couple of retired justices here, which we don't often see.
I haven't seen this in all my time covering State of the Union address to see, justice. There are 4 justices there, but you have retired Justice Anthony Kennedy, and you also have retired Justice Stephen Breyer. I think it's a message from the retired justices that they don't want to see the Supreme Court fall into the same partisan divide that the rest of the country and the rest of the government has fallen into.
Martha Raddatz, we saw Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the former speaker, in a different place in the chamber tonight. Must feel very different for her as she watches the person who has followed in her footsteps, Kevin McCarthy, after that battle. But right now, the president meeting the Joint Chiefs and the military establishment, the defense secretary as well, and foreign policy will play a major role tonight.
It will, but I want to think back to last year. The president spent 12 minutes talking about Ukraine. It was less than a week after Russia invaded. There was some debate within the administration on how much to focus on Ukraine. They decided they have to do that. The president really wants to rally support for Ukraine, and the administration feels it's waning just a bit.
The president shaking Speaker McCarthy's hand. Standing behind the president for the State of the Union for the first time. Of course, again, the First Lady in the chamber as well, and along with her, the guests who have assembled there tonight. Lindsay Davis is going to have more on the family that is joining the First Lady, and we're expecting to hear from the Speaker. And there's the president, ready to address the country.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank
you. Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
His first time doing that. Speaker McCarthy had some reporters at his office today, off the record, but did say we could acknowledge the meeting and signaling John Carl his respect, at least at the start of the president.
Oh my God, that Zoom is pretty funny. Unintentionally hilarious Zoom.
Thank you. Please.
Let's listen to the president.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there. Members of Congress.
A rock star, dude. Kevin McCarthy's so happy to be up there.
I may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home. Got to work something out here. Members of the cabinet, leaders of our military, Chief Justice, Associate Justice, and retired Justice.
Bad delivery.
Court, and to you, my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. And I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
Why is Kevin McCarthy celebrating that? Oh, Gamba's on, by the way. I forgot. Gamba is on. Will Biden?
He won in spite of the fact I campaigned for him. Congratulations, the longest-serving leader in the history of the United States.
Will Biden start with
Senate,
my fellow Americans?
Mitch McConnell. Where are
no.
you, Mitch?
It already ended. Sorry.
And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another term as Senate Minority Leader. You know, I think this time you have a slightly bigger majority, Mr. Leader. You're the majority leader. About that much bigger? Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be considered the greatest speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. Folks, the story of America is a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never, ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations. We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it. Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs, more jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years, because of you all, because of the American people. 2 years ago, COVID had shut down, our businesses were closed, our schools were robbed of so much, and today, COVID no longer controls our lives. And 2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threats in the Civil War. And today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
Kevin McCarthy didn't applaud to that one.
As we gather here tonight, we're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know, we're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. Yes, we disagreed plenty. And yes, there were times when Democrats went alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together to defend a stronger and safer Europe. It came together to pass once in a generation infrastructure law, building bridges connecting our nation and our people. We came together to pass the most significant law ever, helping victims exposed to toxic burn pits. And in fact, It's important. And in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president, from reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, to the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love. And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well. I think folks, New Orleans has formed a
Jersey
Zion,
Cinema
but I think
literally
the
looks
people
like he's
sent
out
us
of
a clear
Hunger Games,
message.
dude.
Fighting for the sake of fighting. Power for the sake of power. Conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view.
Will Biden mention the
decades, middle
Chinese
class has
spy
been hollowed
balloon?
out in more than, and not no one administration, but for a long time. Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be. And along the way, something else we lost. Pride,
Gamma is open.
our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change things, to make sure our economy works for everyone, so we can all feel that pride in what we do. To build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. I know a lot of you always kid me for always quoting my dad, but my dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, folks, so let's look at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low. A near record unemployment. Near record unemployment for black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, your help, 800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years. And where is it written? Where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? And I don't know where that's written. For too many decades, we imported projects and exported jobs. Now, thanks to what you've all done, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Folks, inflation has been a global problem because the pandemic disrupted our supply chains, and Putin's unfair and brutal war in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as food supplies, blocking all that grain in Ukraine. But we're better positioned than any country on earth right now.
But we made so much money.
But we have more to do.
For our military-industrial complex.
Inflation is coming down.
Janet,
gas prices are down $1.50
Janet Yellen soon. What the fuck?
Food inflation is coming down. Not fast enough, but coming down. Inflation has fallen every month for the last 6 months, while take-home pay has gone up. Additionally, over the last 2 years, a record 10 million Americans applied to start new businesses. 10 million. And by the way, every time someone starts a small business is an act of hope. And Madam Vice President, I want to thank you for leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital and the historic laws we enacted that are going to just come into being. Standing here last year, I shared with you a story of American genius and possibilities. Semiconductors, small computer chips the size of a fingerprint that power everything from cell phones to automobiles and so much more. These chips were invented in America. Let's get that straight. They were invented in America. We used to make 40% of the world's chips. In the last several decades, we lost our edge. We're down
China.
to only producing 10%. We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips, each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make enough cars because there weren't enough chips. Car prices went up, people got laid off. So did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. We can never let that happen again. That's why we came together to pass the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act. Folks, I know I've been criticized for saying this, but I'm not changing my view. We're going to make sure the supply chain for America begins in America. The supply chain begins in America. We've already created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks in. With this new law, we're going to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country, throughout not just the coast, but through the middle of the country as well. That's going to come from companies that have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years. Outside of Columbus, Ohio, Intel is building semiconductor factories on 1,000 acres, literally a field of dreams. It's going to create 10,000 jobs, that one investment, 7,000 construction jobs, 3,000 jobs in those factories once they're finished. They call them factories. Jobs paying an average of $130,000 a year, and many do not require a college degree. Jobs. Because we work together, these jobs where people don't have to leave home to search for opportunity. And it's just getting started. Think about the new homes, the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses. So much more that's going to be needed to support those 3,000 permanent jobs and the factories that are going to be built. Talk to mayors and governors, Democrats and Republicans, and they'll tell you what this means for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland. But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks, as you all know, we used to be #1 in the world in infrastructure. We've sunk to 13th in the world. The United States of America, 13th in the world in infrastructure, modern infrastructure. But now we're coming back because we came together and passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, the largest investment in infrastructure since President Eisenhower's interstate highway system. And folks, already we've funded over 20,000 projects, including major airports from Boston to Atlanta to Portland. Projects that are going to put thousands of people to work rebuilding our highways, our bridges, our railroads, our tunnels, ports, airports, clean water, high-speed internet, all across America. Urban, rural, tribal. And folks, we're just getting started. We're just getting started.
He loves saying these. He's got his own tropes, dude. He's got his own set of fucking personal tropes that he loves posting.
I want to thank my Republican friends who voted for the law, and my Republican friends who voted against it as well. But I still get asked to fund the projects in those districts as well. But don't worry. I promised I'd be a president for all Americans. We'll fund these projects. And I'll see you at the groundbreaking. Look, this law will further unite all of America. Projects like Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky over the Ohio River, built 60 years ago, badly needed repairs. One of the nation's most congested freight routes, carrying $2 billion worth of freight every single day across the Ohio River. And folks, I've been talking about fixing it for decades, but we're really finally going to get it done. Yes. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans and from both states to deliver a commitment of $1.6 billion for this project.
Yeah, he literally ran to do the exact opposite of fundamental
I met a young woman named Sarah who's here tonight. I don't know where Sarah is. Is she up in the box? I don't know. Sarah, how are you? Well, Sarah, for 30 years, I learned, she told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as...
This facade that Joseph Robinette Brandon cares about the motherfucking unions is really funny. It's like, I'm the most pro-labor.
Built Cincinnati's skyline. Sarah said she can't wait to be 10 stories above the Ohio River building that new bridge. God bless her. That's pride. And that's what we're also building. We're building back pride. Look, we're also replacing poisonous lead pipes that go into 10 million homes in America, 400,000 school and child care centers. So every child in America can drink the water instead of having permanent damage to their brain. Look, we're making sure that every community in America has access to affordable high-speed internet. No parent should have to drive by McDonald's parking lot to help them do their homework online with their kids, which many thousands were doing across the country. And when we do these projects, and again, I get criticized for this, but I make no excuses for it, we're going to buy American. We're going to buy America. Folks, and it's totally consistent with international trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933, but for too long, past administrations, Democrat and Republican, have fought to get around it. Not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards that require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America. Made in America. I mean it.
Let's do unionized too.
Glass, drywall, fiber optic cable. And on my watch, American roads, bridges, and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listening to me tonight, I know you feel it. So many of you felt like you've just simply been forgotten. Amid the economic upheaval of the past 4 decades, too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home. Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you? The folks at home remember them. You wonder whether the path even exists anymore for your children to get ahead without having to move away. Well, that's why I get that. That's why we're building an economy where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back. Because choices we made in the last several years. You know, this is, in my view, a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America and make a real difference in your lives at home. For example, too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God's name happens if your spouse gets cancer or your child gets deadly ill, or something happens to you. What are you going to have? You get money to pay for those medical bills? Or are you going to have to sell the house or try to get a second mortgage on it? I get it. I get it. With the Inflation Reduction Act that I signed into law, we're taking on powerful interests to bring healthcare costs down so you can sleep better at night with more security. You know, we pay more for prescription drugs than any nation in the world. Let me say it again. We pay more for prescription drugs than any major nation on earth. For example, 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. Many of you in this chamber do, and in the audience. But every day, millions need insulin to control their diabetes so they can literally stay alive. Insulin's been around for over 100 years. The guy who invented it didn't even patent it because he wanted it to be available for everyone. It cost the drug companies roughly $10 a vial to make that insulin. Packaging and all, you may get up to $13. But Big Pharma has been unfairly charging people hundreds of dollars, $400 to $500 a month, making record profits. Not anymore. Not anymore. So many things that we did are only now coming to fruition. We said we were doing this, and we said we passed the law to do it, but people didn't know because the law didn't take effect until January 1 of this year. We capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors on Medicare. People are just finding out. I'm sure you're getting the same calls I'm getting. Look, there are millions of other Americans who do not or are not on Medicare, including 200,000 young people with type 1 diabetes who need this insulin to stay alive. Let's finish the job this time. Let's cap the cost of insulin for everybody at $35. And Big Pharma's still going to do very well, I promise y'all. I promise you they're going to do very well. This law also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. Costs, out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare at a maximum of $2,000 a year. You don't have to pay more than $2,000 a year, no matter how much your drug costs are. Because you know why? You all know it. Many of you, like many in my family, have cancer. You know the drugs can range from $10,000, $11,000, $14,000, $15,000 for the cancer drugs. If drug prices rise faster than inflation, drug companies are going to have to pay Medicare back the difference. We're finally giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices. Bringing down prescription drug costs doesn't just save seniors money. It cuts the federal deficit by billions of dollars, by hundreds of billions of dollars, because these prescription drugs are drugs purchased by Medicare to keep their commitment to the seniors.
By the way,
Well,
this
guess what?
concept,
Instead of paying $400 or $500,
this concept that he's mentioning is called, price bargaining. When you're buying wholesale, everyone engages in this in the private sector. America is the only country that has made it illegal until recently. Until first in the Obama administration when the VA started doing it. And now this is the first step towards that price negotiation for specific drugs. Understand that. Sorry for muting, but that's an important point that I need to make. Operation Angry Gopher, thank you for the 69 gifted subs, Jack.
I will veto it. Look, I'm pleased to say
He did a funny and we missed it. I'm sorry.
have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. And thanks to the law I signed last year, saving millions are saving $800 a year on their premiums. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. So my plea to some of you, at least in this audience, let's finish the job and make these savings permanent. Expand coverage of Medicaid.
Why is Kevin McCarthy not applauding? Kirsten Sinema's not applauding either. Oh, wow. Ghouls. Dude, imagine
Inflation Reduction Act
imagine
is also
not
the most
applauding the
significant
concept
investment
of fucking
in climate change.
driving pharmaceutical prices down, a thing that Trump lied about.
Lowering utility bills.
Trump fucking lied and said he was going to do this too, and they clapped when he lied.
Devastating aftermath of record floods, droughts, storms, and wildfires from Arizona to Mexico to all the way up to the Canadian border. More timber has been burned, as I've observed from helicopters, than the entire state of Missouri. And we don't have global warming? Not a problem. In addition to emergency recovery from Puerto Rico to Florida to Idaho, we're rebuilding for the long term. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires. Roads and water systems withstand the next big flood. Clean energy to cut pollution and create jobs in communities often left behind. We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations installed across the country by tens of thousands of IBEW workers. And we're helping families save more than $1,000 a year with tax credits to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy-efficient appliances. Historic conservation efforts to be responsible stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat. We have an obligation, not to ourselves, but to our children and grandchildren to confront it. I'm proud of how America, at last, is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do. But there's so much more to do. We got to finish the job. And we pay for these investments in our future by finally making the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share. Just begin. Look, I'm a capitalist. I'm a capitalist, but pay your fair share. I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know. The tax system is not fair. It is not fair. Look, the idea that in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500,
they ain't doing shit about this, bro. Let's be real.
And paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, it's simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%. That's less than a nurse pays. And let me be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny. But let's finish the job. There's more to do. We have to reward work, not just wealth. Pass my proposal for the billionaire minimum tax. You know, there's 1,000 billionaires in America. It's up from about 600 in the beginning of the term. But no billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a school teacher or firefighter. I mean it. Think about it. I mean, look. I know you aren't enthusiastic about that, but think about it. Think about it. Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits? Record profits. Last year, they made $200 billion in the midst of a global energy crisis. I think it's outrageous. Why? They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production. And when I talked to a couple of them, they say, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells and all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we invest in them? I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade. And that's going to exceed and beyond that. We're going to need it. Production. if they had, in fact, invested in the production to keep gas prices down. Instead, they used the record profits to buy back their own stock, rewarding the CEOs and shareholders. Corporations ought to do the right thing. That's why I propose we quadruple the tax on corporate stock buybacks and encourage long-term investments. They'll still make considerable profit. Let's finish the job and close the loopholes that allow very wealthy to avoid paying their taxes. Instead of cutting the number of audits for wealthy taxpayers, I just signed a law to reduce the deficit by $114 billion.
Not going to happen.
Cracking down on wealthy tax cheats. That's being fiscally responsible. In the last 2 years, my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion, the largest deficit reduction in American history. Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row. Because those record deficits, no president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor. Nearly 25% of the entire national debt that took over 200 years to accumulate was added by just one administration alone, the last one. They're the facts. Check it out. Check it out. How did Congress respond to that debt? They did the right thing. They lifted the debt ceiling, an economic disaster in the country. So tonight I'm asking the Congress to follow suit. Let's commit here tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America will never, ever be questioned. Some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks, as we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be stopped. All right.
Even from an optics point of view, it is weird to just like not openly celebrate that just because a Democrat is saying it. Like, that's your base of support.
Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all
like, that's
agree.
your base of support. They rely on Social Security, man. Old people.
Stand up and show them. We will not cut Social Security. We will not cut Medicare. Those benefits belong to the American people. They earned it. And if anyone tries to cut Social Security, which apparently no one's going to do, and if anyone tries to cut Medicare, I'll stop them. I'll veto it. And look, I'm not going to allow them to be taken away. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But apparently it's not going to be a problem. Next month, when I offer my fiscal plan, I ask my Republican friends to lay down their plan as well. I really mean it. Let's sit down together and discuss our mutual plans together. Let's do that. I can tell you, the plan I'm going to show you is going to cut the deficit by another $2 trillion. And it won't cut a single bit of Medicare or Social Security. In fact, we're going to extend the Medicare Trust Fund at least 2 decades, because that's going to be the next argument. How do we keep it solvent, right? Well, we'll not raise tax on anyone making under 400 grand, but we'll pay for it the way we talked about tonight, by making sure that the wealthy and big corporations pay their fair share. Look. Here's the deal. They aren't just taking advantage of the tax code. They're taking advantage of you, the American consumer. Here's my message to all of you out there. I have your back. We're already preventing Americans from receiving surprise medical bills.
And we're preventing them from the Chinese balloon.
$1 billion surprise bills.
This would be a good
per month
opportunity to mention
far.
the Chinese balloon.
We're protecting seniors' life savings by cracking down on nursing homes that commit fraud, endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are not needed. Millions of Americans can now save thousands of dollars because they can finally get a hearing aid over the counter without a prescription. Look, capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It's extortion. It's exploitation. Last year, I cracked down
bad.
with the help of many of you
Extortion?
on foreign shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country. I signed a bipartisan bill to cut shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job. Pass the bipartisan legislation to strengthen antitrust enforcement and prevent big online platforms from giving their own products an unfair advantage. My administration is also taking on junk fees, those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money if your flight is canceled or delayed. We've reduced exorbitant bank overdrafts by saving consumers more than $1 billion a year. We're cutting credit card late fees by 75%, from $30 to $8. Look, junk fees may not matter to the very wealthy, but they matter to most other folks in homes like the one I grew up in, like many of you did. They add up to hundreds of dollars a month. They make it harder for you to pay your bills or afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company overcharges you and gets away with it. Not anymore. We've written a bill to stop it all. It's called the Junk Fee Prevention Act. We're going to ban surprise resort fees that hotels charge on your bill. Those fees can cost you up to $90 a night at hotels that aren't even resorts. The idea that cable, internet, and cell phone companies can charge you $200 or more if you decide to switch to another provider. Give me a break. We can stop service fees on tickets to concerts and sporting events and make companies disclose all the fees up front. And we'll prohibit airlines from charging $50 round trip for family just to be able to sit together. Baggage fees are bad enough. Airlines can't treat your child like a piece of baggage. Americans are tired of being. We're tired of being played for suckers. So pass the Junk Fee Prevention Act so companies stop ripping us off. For too long, workers have been getting stiffed, but not anymore. We're beginning to restore the dignity of work. For example, I should have known this, but I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements for the jobs they take. 30 million.
Wow.
So a cashier at a burger place can't walk across town and take the same job.
Doesn't seem like
the
capitalists want that kind of competition, you know?
But they just changed it because we exposed it. That was part of the deal, guys. Look it up. But not anymore.
Well, he's getting booed.
We're banning those
during
agreements
the State
so
of the
companies
Union.
have to compete for workers and pay them what they're worth. And I must tell you, This is bound to get a response from my friends on my left but the right. I'm so sick and tired of companies breaking the law by preventing workers from organizing. Pass the PRO Act, because businesses have a right, workers have a right to form a union.
Okay, this is great, but like, it's not happening. And half the fucking Democrats don't want it from happening.
Raise a family with sick days, paid family medical leave.
It almost feels worse that he's like saying this shit because like it suckers people into thinking that there is genuine intent behind these words and that it's simply like congressional gridlock that's preventing him, you know?
Which gave tens of millions of parents some breathing room and cut child poverty.
It's just like even if they had majority, which they did, it's still not enough. Even if they had like
increased productivity,
veto proof, even if they had like absolutely the full-blown majority.
And get more families access to affordable quality housing. Let's get seniors who want to stay in their homes the care they need to do so. Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers.
Even if they had 2/3 majority, it still would not fucking work.
Pass my plan so we get seniors and people with disabilities the home care and services they need. And support the workers who are doing God's work. These plans are fully paid for and we can afford to do them. Restoring the dignity of work means making education an affordable ticket to the middle class. You know, when we made public education, 12 years of it, universal in the last century, we made the best educated, best paid, we became the best educated, best paid nation in the world. But the rest of the world's caught up. It's caught up. Jill, my wife, who teaches full time, has an expression. I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to out-compete us. Any nation that out-educates is going to out-compete us. Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of the 21st century. We want to have the best educated workforce. Let's finish the job by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from. Let's give public school teachers a raise. We're making progress by reducing student debt, increasing Pell Grants for working and middle-class families. Let's finish the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in high school. Provide access to 2 years of community college, the best career training in America, in addition to being a pathway to a 4-year degree. Let's offer every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not. And folks, in the midst of the COVID crisis, when schools were closed and we were shutting down
as
everything,
a public school teacher, he's capping.
Recognize how far we came in
100%.
the fight against the pandemic itself.
Dude, this is exactly like when Trump was president and Democrats would be like, let's make socialism the rule of law bill. You know what I mean?
COVID deaths are down by 90%.
Like, remember when Kamala Harris was like, Medicare for all or else we kill? When Kamala Harris was voting on the let's murder healthcare executives bill. You know what I mean? Like, they were all literally like 98% of the Democratic Party voted for this bill. They clearly are down with it. You know, they clearly want Medicare for all. Remember that shit? Doesn't fucking matter.
Families grieving.
Now, yeah, fast forward to the future where like they don't even have the fucking majority and they don't even need to fucking vote for it. They're like, let's denounce the evils of socialism bill.
Remembering them, we remain vigilant. We still need to monitor dozens of variants and support new vaccines and treatments. So Congress needs to fund these efforts and keep America safe. And as we emerge from this crisis stronger, we're also got to double down on prosecuting criminals who stole relief money meant to keep workers and small businesses afloat. Before I came to office, you remember, during that campaign, the big issue was about inspector generals who would protect taxpayers' dollars who were sidelined. They were fired. Many people said we don't need them. And fraud became rampant. Last year, I told you the watchdogs are back. Since then, we've recovered billions of taxpayers' dollars. Now let's triple the anti-fraud strike force going after these criminals, double the statute of limitations on these crimes, and crack down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people. And the data shows that for every dollar we put into fighting fraud, the taxpayers get back at least 10 times as much. It matters. It matters. Look, COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic. We have an obligation to make sure all people are safe. Public safety depends on public trust, as all of us know. But too often that trust is violated. Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols. Welcome. We had to bury Tyree last week. As many of you personally know, there's no words to describe the heartache or grief of losing a child. But imagine.
I mean, this is the same thing that like Republicans do.
At the hands of the law.
Even though it is more valid, the same thing that Republicans do. They'll be like, this is the mother of like someone who got murdered by an undocumented immigrant or whatever.
Most of us
but the difference is like,
have never had to have the talk.
Murder happens regardless, right?
The talk.
The point is, cops shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? So it's more valid. It's performative in the same vein, but it's certainly more valid because it's like our government public servants should not be doing it, right? Murder is going to happen regardless, obviously, whether it's an undocumented immigrant or literally like a natural-born U.S. citizen, which is statistically more likely.
Imagine having to worry
it's still
like that every single time.
You can't make immigration policy off of that. Whereas you should be able to, in a real world, make police policy off of that.
When I ask her how she finds the courage to carry on and speak out. With the faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and character that takes.
Emotional manipulation, it's always more valid when it's whoever's side doing it. I mean, I'm not exactly on his side. I don't think he gives a shit.
Violence. Law enforcement who earns the community's trust. Just as every cop, when they pin on that badge in the morning, has a right to be able to go home at night, so does everybody else out there.
Bro, what the fuck? This narrative also still portrays cops as like severely under attack all the fucking time.
Under the law is a covenant.
No, yeah, random citizens should be able to go home at night and put their fucking heads on a pillow. Cops, on the other hand, like, yeah, they are assuming a bit of risk.
On the line every single night and day. And we know we ask them in many cases to do too much, to be counselors, social workers, psychologists, responding to drug overdoses, mental health crises, and so much more. In one sense, we ask much too much of them. I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority. But they risk.
Talking about the balloon, he's not going to talk about the balloon, man. From police brutality to balloon brutality, let's talk about the Chinese balloon. Like, what do you think the segue is?
Every time they put that shield on.
Like, the only segues you see are the top of the hour ad breaks.
Too often. We have to do better. Give law
come at the top of every hour.
Training they need. Hold them to higher standards. Help them succeed.
They ain't doing shit, dog. That's not happening.
We also need more first responders.
But the top of the hour ad break is happening.
Mental health, substance abuse challenge.
I can't feel my legs. Elgato help. Thank you for the 5 with the subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
More investment in housing, education, and job training. All this can help prevent violence in the first place. And when police officers or police departments violate the public trust, They must
Chia
be held
Retex, thank you for the
accountable.
50 gifted. Floki, thank you for the 10 gifted.
With the support of the families of victims, civil rights groups, and law enforcement, I signed an executive order for all federal officers banning chokeholds, restricting no-knock warrants, and other key elements of the George Floyd Act. Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true.
Bro, without
good
like
must-
genuine accountability though, like why the fuck would they ever stop doing it regardless of what the federal government thinks of it? You know what I mean? Also, remember when Biden said, no chokeholds, and if you want to shoot him, just shoot him in the leg, Jack. Did he say Tyler? Did he say Tyler Nichols? I did not hear that. As a Louisiana resident, I'm happy the police are responding to mental health crises with weapons training from Steven Seagal. True.
We need to
Technically
rise to
less
this
lethal.
moment. We can't turn away. Let's do what we know in our hearts that we need to do. Let's come together to finish the job on police reform. Do something. Do something. That was the plea of parents who lost their children in Uvalde. I met with every one of them. Do something about gun violence. Thank God.
Yeah, the police should do something when it's a school shooting, and they shouldn't do something when it's a traffic violation. I might be crazy here, but I feel like that's a pretty good way to start the conversation. Do the shooting when you have to do the shooting,
gun owners already support.
and not when you don't have to.
Background checks for
Jack,
18 to
look
21
alive.
years old. Red flag laws, keeping guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves and others. But we know our work is not done. Joining us tonight is Brandon Say, a 26-year-old hero. Brandon put his college dreams on hold to be at his mom's side. His mom's side when she was dying from cancer. And Brandon,
Let's go, Brandon. Say, let's go, Brandon. That'd be fire. Okay, I'll take back everything. His approval rate would skyrocket.
works at the dance studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio
Say, let's go,
door
Brandon. Say, let's go,
close.
Brandon. Please
He
say,
saw
let's
a
go,
man standing
Brandon.
there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestle the
Fucking
semi-automatic
Bono.
pistol away from the
Why
gunman.
is Bono
who
there?
already killed 11 people in another dance studio. 11. He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now. Once and for all.
Wait, what? That was a fucking Uzi. Like, I mean, it was a handgun.
I led the fight to do that in 1994. In 10 years, that ban was law and mass shootings went down. After we let it expire in the Republican administration, mass shootings tripled. Let's finish the job and ban these assault weapons. And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again. We know we now have a record number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month. Unlawful migration from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela has come down 97% as a consequence of that. But American border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts. If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the People's House, it's our duty to protect all the people's rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right and the... Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade. Give every woman a consular right. The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. Well, already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it. But let's also pass the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially
Hogwarts
transgender
Legacy.
young
Mention
people,
Hogwarts
can
Legacy.
live with safety
Mention
and
Hogwarts
dignity.
Legacy.
Our strength is not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching. I spoke from this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? Would we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Would we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did.
We made inflation go down faster than the Chinese balloon, Jack.
America always does at our best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukrainian's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here, united. We're united in our support of your country. Will you stand so we can all take a look at you? Thank you. Because we're going to stand with you.
Paul Pelosi kicking game, dude.
Our nation is working for more freedom, more dignity, more peace, not just in Europe, but everywhere. Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power and America was failing in the world. Not anymore. We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict. But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries that will define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies to protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world. And I'm committed. I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world. But make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did. Look, let's be clear. Winning the competition should unite all of us. We face serious challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracy has grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one. America's rallying the world to meet those challenges, from climate to global health, to food insecurity, to terrorism, to territorial aggression. Allies are stepping up, spending more, and doing more. Look, the bridges we're forming between partners in the Pacific and those in the Atlantic, and those who bet against America are learning how wrong they are. It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never.
Just like that Chinese balloon. Say it. Say it with clarity. What is that hair? Oh, my God.
Well, when I came to office, most assured that bipartisanship assumed was impossible, but never believed it. That's why a year ago, I offered a unity agenda to the nation as I stood here. We made real progress together. We passed a law making it easy for doctors to prescribe effective treatments for opioid addiction. We passed the gun safety law, making historic investments in mental health. We launched the ARPA-H drive for breakthrough in the fights against cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, and so much more. We passed the Heath Robinson PACT Act, named after the late Iraq War veteran whose story about exposure to toxic burn kits I shared here last year. I understand something about those burn pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do it together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire. He wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney. A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared a story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in the audience. Courtney discovered pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction and eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old. Describing the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain." Yet their family has turned pain to purpose, working to end the stigma and change laws. He told us he wants to start a journey toward American recovery. Doug, we're with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. You got it.
What? Are they booing? Boo! It should be killing more Americans.
So
like what?
Launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production in the sale and trafficking, with more drug detection machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder at the border.
Boo! Not enough. Not enough Americans being murdered. I hate that.
FedEx to inspect more packages for drugs. Strong penalties to crack down on fentanyl trafficking. Second, let's do more on mental health, especially for our children. When millions of young people are struggling with bullying, violence, trauma, we owe them greater access to mental health care at their schools. We must finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting they're doing running children for profit. It's time to pass bipartisan legislation to stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers online. Ban targeted advertising to children and impose stricter limits on the personal data that companies collect on all of us. Third, let's do more to keep this
approval
nation's
rating
ones
amongst those
truly
who can
sacred
vote goes up
obligation
100%.
to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their
Everyone
families when
under
they
the
come
age
home.
of 18, though, will
Job
never
training,
vote for a
job
Democrat
placement for
again. You know what I
veterans
mean?
And their spouses as they come to return to civilian life. Helping veterans afford the rent, because no one should be homeless in America, especially someone who served the country.
Yeah, nobody gives a fuck about homeless veterans. Let's be real. Republicans don't give a shit.
Dennis McDonough is here of the VA. We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job. I'm glad he did. We were losing up to 25 veterans a day on suicide. Now we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day are committing suicide. More than all the people being killed in the wars. Folks, VA is doing everything it can, including expanding mental health screening, proven programs that recruits veterans to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help they need. We got to do more. And fourth, last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue. Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25 years. Turn more cancers from death sentences to treatable diseases. Provide more support for patients and their families. It's personal to so many of us in this audience. Joining us are Morris and Candice, an Irishman and a daughter of immigrants from Panama. They met and fell in love in New York City and got married in the same chapel Jill and I got married in New York City. Kindred spirits. He wrote us a letter about his little daughter, Ava, and I saw her just before I came over. She was just a year old when she was diagnosed with rare kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, giving a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that like so many of you. And he read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to steal moments of joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile of their baby girl. It meant everything.
Hasanabi told the veterans they deserved it in 9/11, so he should at least realize he's responsible for a bunch of veteran deaths. Wait, what?
She turns 4 next month. They just found out.
Bro.
Ava's beating the odds.
My haters are running on autopilot at this point. It's like, bro, you just made all of that up. Like, what? Veterans didn't die on 9/11, you fucking idiot. Maybe some, I mean, that were in the towers or whatever, but like, that's not even what I said. What? Do you think 9/11 was like a military operation? Like, what the fuck?
Let this be a truly American moment that rallies the country and the world together.
Yeah, my haters have turned it up. They're doing AI hate, AI bot
20 years
hate.
ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort through PEPFAR.
We're not banning that guy.
Transform the global fight against HIV/AIDS.
We're not banning that guy. I need to hear it more from him.
He thought big. He thought large. He moved. I believe we can do the same thing with cancer. Let's end cancer as we know it.
Unless this guy's talking about Muhammad Atta shit, you know what I mean? I think he's talking about the 17 veterans or 19 veterans on the plane.
Our democracy itself. It's the most fundamental thing of all.
Also,
democracy.
Just claiming that you want to cure cancer or that we're going to cure cancer is kind of fire because, like, it's just as unlikely as the other shit that he said, like, you know, doing accountability to police misconduct.
And then just a few months ago, an unhinged big lie, assailant unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, using the very same language the insurrectionists used as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th.
Yeah, we're not supporting unions. We're not doing police accountability. That's not happening. Might as well say you're curing cancer.
As tough and as strong, as resilient as they get. My friend Paul Pelosi. Paul, stand up.
Oh, wait. Did he say, was that guy trying to say that, like, me saying America deserved 9/11 caused veterans to commit suicide? Is that what he's saying? Bro.
We must all speak out. There's no place for political violence in America.
That's a really good one,
we have to
dude.
Protect the
Respect.
Right to vote, not
I want to
suppress
shake that man's hand.
right. Honor the results of our elections, not subvert the will of the people. We have to uphold the rule of law and restore trust in our institutions of democracy. And we must give hate and extremism in any form no
Did he say anything else?
Harbor.
Bro, come on, please give me more. Give me more. Give me more. Give me more.
Be a partisan issue.
Give me more,
It's an
man.
American issue. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment where they have been called to protect our democracy, defend it,
My
stand
point
up
is, when
for
you
it.
came out with that statement, a ton
And
of
this is
veterans
our
saw that
moment.
and felt guilty.
My fellow Americans,
He is saying
we
that.
meet tonight at an inflection point. One of those moments that only a few generations ever face, where the direction we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders.
I think
in
the
history.
war on terror
We're not powerless before the forces that confront
and all
us.
the people that signed up
It's within
to join
our
the
power
military immediately
of
after
we, the
9/11 is genuinely responsible
facing
for a
the
lot
test
of
of our
veteran
time.
suicide. Yes.
We
I
have
don't
to
know
be
how
the
that's
nation
my
we've
fault,
always
but
been at our best, optimistic, hopeful,
Yeah.
forward-looking. A nation that embraces
yeah,
light
like that
over
part
dark,
is true. The war on
hope
terror
over
has
fear,
killed veterans
unity over
for sure.
stability over chaos. We have to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. We're good people. The only nation in the world built on an idea. The only one.
It is your fault, lol.
Other nations are defined by geography, ethnicity. But we're the only nation based on an idea that all of us, every one of us, is created equal in the image of God. A nation that stands as a beacon to the world. A nation in a new age of possibilities. So I've come to fulfill my constitutional obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report. Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is strong, because the people of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong. I'm not new to this place. I stand here tonight having served as long as about any one of you have ever served here. But I've never been more optimistic about our future, about the future of America. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
President Biden before the American people, before Congress tonight. A joint session, shaking Vice President Kamala Harris's hand there. Of course, just before that, shaking the hand of Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who he joked at the beginning. President Biden said, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. Both the President and Speaker McCarthy.
That was fire. That guy hit me with the best quote I've ever seen. That like, I made veterans feel bad, and maybe some of them killed themselves when I said America deserved 9/11 is insane, because it like completely avoids, I can't let that go, because it completely just avoids like why they became disillusioned veterans with no support system. Like they joined the military because they thought they were doing something good. They got their bodies shot to shit. They did unimaginable things overseas, recognized that like that wasn't for the greater good like they previously thought it was, recognized the lie, came back here if they were lucky after seeing a bunch of their friends get fucking blown to pieces. And then the VA was like, yeah, look alive, Jack, fuck off. And now they're like homeless and shit. And that's killing them. That's making them commit suicide at an insane rate. But like this guy thinks me saying America deserved 9/11 is the real reason. That's incredible. I don't know what to tell you. Like that chatter is taken 10 minutes of your stream from you. No, I mean, it's worth it. It actually is worth it. That is probably the most insane take I've ever seen in the chat. And you know me, I like to celebrate insane takes. And that is a really good one. No mention of the balloon, by the way. 6 out of 10 Biden speech, no balloon mentioned. Look, it's, I mean, this is, it's great. It's fucking awesome. You know, he's going to say whatever the fuck he's going to say. He's going to say whatever the fuck he's going to say because, like, I don't know. It just doesn't really matter. There's no power. Democrats love being powerless. It's like their favorite. He mentioned the balloon by proxy. Yeah, that. Man, I'll just tell you this much. Okay? If my words had the capacity to get people to fucking kill themselves, I promise I would not be directing it towards like random fucking veterans, okay? I'm not going to say anything further, but like with great power comes great responsibility, and you bet your fucking ass I would use it almost indiscriminately, perhaps in a video game, you know what I mean? But like certainly not on fucking random the veterans who feel awful about their particular circumstances, and more so in people who hold the levers of power. You know what I mean? You're talking like a Death Note style situation, and I'm not using it on fucking random schmoes, okay? He clearly referenced the word balloon. The bet wasn't he said the word balloon. But it was he referenced it, and he did. Yeah, if I... You got to decide. No, I can't do that. If it were up to me, I would just cancel the Gamba. No, I'm too much of a coward. I can't take a stand on this.
The conversation that all too often black parents have to have with their children. And he talked about how he never had to have the talk with his kids. And he said, but just imagine. And you can imagine that Rovon Wells, the mother of Tyree, she only wants to hear two words. That's police reform. You know, he kept talking about the refrain, as you just said, let's finish the job. That's a job that he said would have been passed in May of 2021. And so here we are almost 2 years later, and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act still has stalled, and apparently these conversations are going to pick back up. But that, as we just heard from Rachel Scott, we saw her imploring the Republicans who were down on the floor standing and applauding to do something.
To do something and walking that fine line of acknowledging the job facing law enforcement across this country, that good cops essentially don't like bad cops too, and saying we need to get them the training they need. But again, powerful, as you point out, do something. We saw her from the chamber up above, the mother of Tyree Nichols, looking down at Congress saying you can't let another one of these incidents go by without doing something.
And apparently Tim Scott and Cory Booker said that on the heels of the death of Tyree Nichols, that they have renewed talks. This is something that she said that her son came here as on assignment from God, and that she was hoping that something beautiful would come out of his death. And this is that one something that she's hoping for.
Yes, that her son has a beautiful soul and something good will come
I
from
think
this.
the real winner of tonight, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I guess I do believe I'm saying this, is Paul Pelosi and his fedora. Okay? That's right. There is no one who was as prominently featured and as worthy of praise as Paul Pelosi and his fedora. Okay? I mean, this swagged out king is way out of David DePappy's league. I'll just say it. The fact that the media ever even thought that, like, he would fuck David DePappy and, like, not some other cum-hungry twink, okay? That a cum-hungry twink that, like, with washboard abs, you know what I mean? Like, you're out of your mind. You're fucking crazy. All I know is that man's definitely a little gay. What? No, he's not. What the fuck? Wait, what? No way. I'm told Mitt Romney said to Representative George Santos, "You don't belong here." Yo. He meant like you're gay. He's like, I'm Mormon. You don't belong here. Back in my day, we had, Lindsey Graham, who at least had the honesty and decency to hide that he's gay. I don't know why Mitt Romney's talking like that. He's a Massachusetts, Utah boy, but talking to me when I'm in chat. Yeah, you don't belong here, Prezzo. Last year at the State of the Union, Biden said this: "We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police. Fund them. Fund them. Fund them with resources and training." And this year he brings Tyree Nichols' mourning family as a prop. Interesting. I think personally that is 5D chess. He's like funding the police so that he can use victims as a prop. I'm just saying. Zoom moment from the start. Oh, you got the Zoom? Oh, that's awesome. I think they were doing like a white balance or something probably, you know what I mean? And then accidentally got caught on camera. But really fucking fire moment, you know? Santos was so real for this. So to category is gaslighting. Nice. Hasanabi to trans people in his chat. You don't belong here. Always. Hot mic.
About Cuba. Okay.
What? Uh-oh. Said I'll talk to you about. I gotta talk to you about Cuba. Uh-oh. What's he gonna do? Stay the fuck away from Cuba, dog. Don't do it.
I'm serious.
I'm serious. We gotta do something about Cuba.
Well, I know that. I tell you, he's gonna have to take some of that grass off to get the space. By the way,
Mr. President, that was awesome.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
God, he's so fucking lame. That's Hakeem Jeffries, isn't it? It sounds like him. Ay, ay, ay. Or was that Jamal Bowman? Oh, that makes it so much more lame. No, God, Jamal Bowman. Can't tell. I don't know. How are you making that up? I hope it wasn't Jamal Bowman, please. Ugh. No, that wasn't Cory Booker. Also, Jamal Bowman has a lisp. Jamal Libman. Not a song getting his black people mixed up on Black History Month. Yeah, you know it. Oh my God, it was Jamal Bowman. Representative Jamal Bowman just shouted at Biden from halfway across the House chamber. Mr. President, that was awesome. He says with a fist pump. I did not want to believe it. I still don't want to believe it. He can't be that lame, dude. Please stop. Oh, God. He does do that. Hey, man. Okay, we'll do the hot mics in a second. Hold on. I want to hear some Chris Christie commentary while I go pee.
He was essentially emptying his pockets, my pockets, and your pockets, David, to give away everything he possibly could to the people he's going to be hoping will vote for him in less than 2 years. That's a guy who is running for re-election. There's no question in my mind about it. He wants to stay for another 4 years beyond the 4 he's been given, and he is already setting the tone. This was the warm-up for the announcement that he's running for re-election.
Perhaps that's the one point I can get you and Donna to agree on. See, I work for consensus here, at least on one point. Chris and Donna, we thank you as always as President Biden continues to work the room inside this chamber. I want to go back to Rachel Scott tonight because Mary was talking earlier about the level of energy President Biden brought to this speech here in the chamber. There were bipartisan moments. We're looking right now at Vice President Kamala Harris, second gentleman Doug Emhoff there, also with Speaker McCarthy. Speaker McCarthy, Rachel, at times tested himself up there in this new role, given the fact that he wanted a unified Republican Party in that chamber.
Exactly, David, and this is just the reality that Speaker Kevin McCarthy is faced with. He is not only faced with a very thin, a very narrow Republican majority in the House, he's also faced with different factions of the Republican Party, and he wanted tonight to remain civil. He wanted members of his conference to remain respectful to the President of the United States. I was told by sources in a closed-door meeting earlier, he urged his party to continue to remain cordial as the president gave this address tonight. But as we saw this play out here in the chamber, there were certain moments where things did take a turn, where you had Republicans calling the President of the United States a liar on certain issues, where they got up and pointed fingers at the president before then sitting down. And this just underscores the immense amount of challenges ahead for Speaker McCarthy when it comes to unifying his own party.
Wake up!
I want to bring in Terry.
Look alive, Jack.
Along with us here. You heard the president tonight.
No more hawk shoes and me.
Obviously, that 3.4% unemployment rate in the last couple of days that came out. That's the lowest since '69. 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more than 10 million jobs since he began his term. But Terry, there was an acknowledgement of the people that he called invisible. That's a word we've heard from previous administrations, but it was an acknowledgement that there are many Americans who simply don't feel these numbers, these apparent positive numbers. We know we're still dealing with inflation. It's eased somewhat, but the numbers that President Biden pointing to tonight, there did seem to be acknowledgement on his part that not everyone is enjoying these numbers.
Absolutely. And our ABC News Washington Post poll that found that 41%, 4 out of every 10 Americans, told us that they are worse off financially than they were when Joe Biden became president. That's a tough number for any president. And so, you know, what Chris Christie calls a laundry list in some ways is old-fashioned, tub-thumping, Democratic, populist politics. That is a list of things that people want. Help with child care, help with prescription drugs, even the junk fees that you're charged when you change cable companies or when you go to a hotel. You know, he goes after that, too. That was definitely, it seemed to me, aimed at a re-election, making people happy. But in general, I think this speech was aimed at the America that wasn't just forgotten during this.
Wait, this is great. George Santos is quick to stand and applaud for lower insulin prices. He then realizes the rest of the GOP side is not clapping. He sits back down and smiles. Dude, that's fucking fire, dude. That's politics, baby. That's life in the big city, George. It's so perfect. It has like everything. This captures the essence of the Republican Party. It captures the essence of George Santos as a deity. My man, it's got shit. It's got everything, dude. It is kind of wild. Like, it is wild to just not clap for lower insulin prices because, like, that's Trump lied about that. Like Trump lied and said he wanted to do that. You know what I mean? That's a crazy thing to just not clap at. It's also another crazy thing to basically not fucking clap, or to basically get mad at cutting Social Security, or claiming that you will never cut Social Security now. Like they were pissed off when Biden was like, we're not cutting Social Security, Jack. It's like, bro, what do you mean? It's like across the board, a gigantic chunk of your base of support comes from old people, Republican Party. They love Social Security. That's weird. That's weird that you like are upset about that. That's an odd thing.
Order in a speech to convince people. It's a huge audience, possibly his biggest of the year, but that's the goal here. And he can try and
we
sell
watched
it,
this already.
but will it resonate finally? That's the big question.
And Martha Raddatz, that's the challenge. You've traveled this country. It's whether or not he could be optimistic, but also at the same time connect with Americans who say, we're waiting here, Mr. President.
And you've talked to a lot of people across the country. I certainly have, and I'll go back to the midterms. All they talked about was the economy and how that would affect them and those gas prices. And indeed, Joe Biden is trying to appeal to all of them. Just wait and see. We'll get through this. We'll get through this. Or if you listen to Chris Christie, he was giving them everything they want. But that does resonate. That is what they want to hear. They do want to hear that things will get better.
And if there's one area where he might get the majority of Americans, it might be taking on the pharmaceutical companies. So that might have been one safe point.
I mean, look, you might, Governor Christie may be right about the hypocrisy of those 2 points, but I mean, it's not unpopular to go against pharmaceutical companies for high-priced prescription drugs. By the way, this is different than the last 2 State of the Unions because we're at a packed chamber. I mean, this is not a COVID reduced audience State of the Union, and he is loving that.
Not only that, everyone is here, but they were allowed to bring guests for the first time in several years. This is a different moment America is witnessing tonight.
And his first as president to see this. But I got to say, David, the shouting and the liar and the pointing, it just tells you how far we have come. You remember in 2009 when Joe Wilson, a congressman from South Carolina, stood up at a joint session, Barack Obama speech, and said, "You're a liar." And he got censured. There was a widespread outcry. And here you had how many members of Congress doing much more than that?
Well, it was a start.
Bro, this guy's still hitting it. He doesn't realize that after war and PTSD, these veteran soldiers become extremely vulnerable and easy to attack from your computer chair. And when he says we deserve 9/11, these veterans believe him and in their mind kill themselves. Come to learn, think critically. Hassan hates veterans unless they're from Turkey. Bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think if you keep this up, some veterans are going to send you some fucking messages in the chat. Not like positive, supportive ones, but you're out of your fucking mind, dog. This is insane. But keep posting. I do think that you should keep posting because you are so unhinged. Yeah. Post through it. I love you. This is a good one. We will bring down price of prescription drugs. We will make sure the wealthy and corporations pay their fair share in taxes. 2 things I've heard in every single State of the Union by a Democratic president in my lifetime. Let's hope they get it done this time. Of course, Will Menaker is being sarcastic, which... but it's not happening. CNN didn't like that tweet. I'm trying to understand what the fuck saying America deserving 9/11 has to do with the self-esteem of our veterans, to be honest. Dude, I don't know what he even thinks I mean by it. You know what I mean? I'm just in awe that, like, look, I have unhinged fans in the tunes of thousands. You have seen some of them over the course of the past fucking week going absolutely bananas mode, right? So for that reason, I have probably seen like every kind of weird take about me. You know, and a lot of them are super common. Like people literally still say like, he has a house. Why doesn't he donate that to Turkey? You know what I mean? So I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, I value when someone comes in here and is just fucking insane. Like just so demonstrably silly. Like so absolutely outside of the box with their thinking that I have to fucking sit there for a moment and like really grasp what they're trying to pin on me this time. You know what I mean? Wait, what? Hey, yo, what the fuck? Yo, Douglas Emhoff. Yo, chill. What? He's being kind of zesty with it. And by zesty, I'm saying because he's a gay guy. Or, oh, wait, he's not actually. He's Kamala Harris's husband. Oh my God, I took it for granted that he's a beard. Like, absolutely. I forgot that that's not a thing that, like, I say on the stream. That's so fucked up. I was thinking of Chasten. I was thinking of Chasten Buttigieg. I was thinking of Chasten. I was going to start a new thing where I say gay dudes are being zesty when they're doing straight stuff. Like, this is a 3-layer joke, okay? Like, first, I'm done. I can't. She's a doctor. She's giving him CPR. Get your mind out of the gutter. The Harris marriage is a sham. Anyway. Gay guys kissing women is real slutty. 100%. Austin is the king slut. Hasan, it doesn't matter who you are. Kissing women is gay, period. Okay, this is a wild kiss, though. Like, this is like... What happened? What else is happening? And Pelosi's watching and clapping? What? Dude. Too many layers in this. Like, what? Am I missing something, or did Biden just get cucked in front of everyone just now? No, I think he did. And guess what? You know who's sitting in the cuck chair? Paul Pelosi, and clapping, and not Biden. Dude. Kissing girls is gay because they kiss other guys, so you're indirectly kissing another guy. I agree. I would never do it. Moochie in action? Ooh, give it to me. Wait. Bro, they kissed on the lips. Like, that's wild. Why'd they kiss on the lips? What is this, a Tom Brady and Tom Brady's son type situation? Like, what's happening?